Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today video topic is Aurangzeb Alamgir, the last great Mughal. Intro: the most controversial emperor in history. Some call him a tyrant, some call him a saint. Some say he destroyed an empire. Others say he saved it longer than anyone could. He ruled longer than any Mughal emperor. He expanded the empire to its greatest size, yet he died alone, far from luxury. He lived simply, slept on the ground, copied the Quran with his own hands to earn money. This is not a story of black and white. This is a story of discipline, power, faith, war, and sacrifice. This is the life of Aurangzeb Alamgir. Chapter 1: Birth of a Different Prince. Aurangzeb was born on the 3rd of November 1618 in Dahod, Gujarat. His father was Shah Jahan, the emperor of beauty and architecture. His mother was Mumtaz Mahal, remembered for love and elegance. Aurangzeb was different. While his brothers loved luxury, Aurangzeb preferred books, discipline, and silence. From a young age, he studied Quran, Hadith, Islamic law, Persian, Arabic, and Turkish. He memorized the Quran. He avoided music and excess. Teachers noticed something unusual. This child does not seek pleasure, he seeks control. First over himself. Chapter 2: The incident that shaped him. At age 14, Aurangzeb faced death. During an elephant fight arranged for royal entertainment, a massive elephant went out of control. Princes ran, Aurangzeb did not. He charged forward on horseback, faced the elephant, and struck it with his spear. The elephant collapsed. The court was shocked. Shah Jahan hugged his son and said, "You have saved your life with bravery." Aurangzeb replied calmly, "Life and death are in Allah's hands." Fearless, calm, under pressure, deeply religious. Chapter 3: Education, Discipline, and Faith. Aurangzeb lived unlike royalty. He wore simple clothes, ate little, woke before dawn for prayer. He disliked poetry about wine and romance. He preferred law, governance, and theology. While his brother, Dada Shikoh, explored mysticism and philosophy, Aurangzeb focused on Sharia, justice, and order. This difference would later tear the empire apart. Chapter 4: First Battle, First Blood. Aurangzeb was sent to the Deccan as a young commander. Here, he faced real war, not palace politics. He fought rebels, governors, and rival kingdoms. Supply lines matter more than bravery. Discipline wins wars. Mercy is useful, but fear is necessary. Unlike other princes, he stayed with soldiers, ate what they ate, slept where they slept. The army respected him, a prince who refused treasure. After the successful campaign, Aurangzeb was offered treasure. He refused most of it. He said, "I do not fight for gold, I fight for responsibility." Aurangzeb chose restraint. Chapter 5: The Gathering Storm. Shah Jahan fell ill. The empire trembled. 4 brothers stood ready: Dada Shikoh, the favorite, Shuja, Murad. Aurangzeb knew one truth. In Mughal history, there is no mercy between princes. The war for the throne was inevitable, and Aurangzeb was ready. Chapter 6: The Empire Without a King. In 1657, the Mughal Empire held its breath. Shah Jahan, the emperor of marble and magnificence, fell gravely ill. Rumors spread faster than armies. In Mughal history, one rule was absolute: when the emperor weakens, blood follows. There was no law of succession, only survival. 4 princes prepared for war. Dada Shikoh, the eldest, intellectual, favored by Shah Jahan; Shah Shuja, ambitious, ruling Bengal; Murad Bakhsh, reckless, hungry for power; Aurangzeb, silent, disciplined, dangerous. Aurangzeb did not rush, he waited, because patience to him was also a weapon. Chapter 7: Dada Shikoh, brother and rival. Dada Shikoh was everything Aurangzeb was not. He loved philosophy, mysticism, poetry, debate between religions. Shah Jahan adored him. The court believed Dada would rule, but Aurangzeb saw what others ignored. Dada had no military discipline, no loyalty of hardened generals, no understanding of battlefield reality. Aurangzeb believed an empire cannot be ruled by ideas alone. This was not just a political rivalry, it was a clash of worldviews. Chapter 8: Alliance of Necessity. Aurangzeb and Murad. Aurangzeb formed a temporary alliance with his brother Murad Bakhsh. He promised Murad the throne. Murad believed him. Aurangzeb knew something Murad did not. Promises are tools. The empire is the objective. Together, they marched north, not with rage, with calculation. Chapter 9 The Battle of Samogarh. The decisive battle came in 1658 near Samogarh, close to Agra. Dara Shikoh led a larger army. Aurangzeb led a better one. Dara trusted tradition. Aurangzeb trusted strategy. Aurangzeb placed artillery carefully, protected flanks, controlled cavalry movement. Dara charged emotionally. The result was devastating. Dara's army collapsed. The Mughal Empire changed hands, not through lineage but through discipline. A general corrects the prince. During the battle, a commander suggested retreat. Aurangzeb replied calmly, "We are not here to survive. We are here to decide history." That day, he did. Chapter 10 The Fall of a Father. After victory, Aurangzeb entered Agra. Shah Jahan had recovered. He was alive. But powerless, Aurangzeb did not kill his father. He imprisoned him in Agra fort. From a window, Shah Jahan could see the Taj Mahal, the tomb of his beloved wife. This decision defines Aurangzeb's legacy. Some call it cruelty, others call it necessity. Aurangzeb believed an empire cannot have two kings, even if one is your father. Chapter 11 The Execution of Dara Shikoh. Dara Shikoh was captured. He was paraded through Delhi. Weak, broken, defeated. Aurangzeb faced the hardest decision of his life. Dara was not just a rival, he was his brother. But in Mughal politics, mercy created rebellion. Dara was executed in 1659. Aurangzeb wept, but he did not stop it, because he believed personal pain is the price of order. Chapter 12 Coronation of Alamgir. Aurangzeb was crowned emperor. He took the title Alamgir, conqueror of the world. There were no grand celebrations, no excessive gold, no drunken feasts. Aurangzeb chose simplicity. He ruled from prayer mats, not pleasure halls. The emperor who earned his own bread. Aurangzeb refused royal luxury. He stitched caps and copied the Quran to earn personal income. He ordered, "Do not feed me from the treasury after my death." This shocked nobles. An emperor who lived like a servant. Chapter 13 A new kind of emperor. Aurangzeb ruled differently. He ended court music, reduced unnecessary expenses, enforced strict discipline, centralized administration. He believed an empire should be feared for law, not luxury. The Mughal Empire reached its greatest territorial size under him, but the cost was rising, and the future was restless. Chapter 14 An empire at its peak. By the late 1660s, the Mughal Empire stood at its greatest territorial size, from Afghanistan to Bengal, from Kashmir to the deep south of India. Aurangzeb ruled more land than any Mughal before him, but greatness came with a problem. The empire was too large. Supply lines stretched endlessly. Local governors grew ambitious. New powers were rising in the shadows. And the most dangerous of them all were the Marathas. Chapter 15 to Shivajee, the unexpected enemy. In the hills of the Deccan, a new leader emerged, Shivaji. He did not fight like traditional kings. He used guerrilla warfare, mountain forts, speed and surprise. Aurangzeb initially underestimated him. That was a mistake. Shivaji struck Mughal supply lines, captured forts, disappeared into the mountains. This was not just a military challenge. It was a psychological one. The escape from Agra, Shivaji was captured and brought to Agra. He stood before Aurangzeb. The emperor did not execute him. Instead, he placed him under house arrest. Then, the unthinkable happened. Shivaji escaped, hidden inside baskets of sweets. For Aurangzeb, this was humiliating, not because Shivaji escaped, but because it proved force alone cannot control ambition. From this moment, Aurangzeb decided the Deccan would not be ruled from the throne, it would be ruled from the battlefield. Chapter 16 The Deccan Wars begin. Aurangzeb made a decision no emperor had ever made. At nearly 60 years old, he moved the entire imperial court to the Deccan. He would personally command the war. For over 25 years, Aurangzeb lived in tents. No palaces, no rest. Campaign after campaign, fort after fort, he conquered Bijapur, Golconda, two powerful kingdoms fell. The empire expanded further, but the cost was enormous. Gold drained, soldiers died, rebellions increased elsewhere. Chapter 17, The Law Above All. Aurangzeb was not only a warrior, he was a system builder. He commissioned the Fatwa-e-Alamgiri, one of the largest legal courts in Islamic history. It standardized law across the empire. He demanded honest taxation, accountability of governors, end to corruption. Even nobles feared inspection. This discipline kept the empire intact longer than expected, but it also made enemies. Chapter 18 to the Jizya controversy. Aurangzeb reintroduced jizya, a tax on non-Muslim subjects. This decision remains controversial. To understand it, context matters. At the time, Muslims paid zakat, non-Muslims were exempt from military service. Jizya was common across empires, including Europe. Aurangzeb believed this created legal balance, not punishment. However, in India's complex religious landscape, this policy fueled resentment. Aurangzeb governed by law, not popularity, and law without diplomacy creates resistance. The temple question. Aurangzeb ordered the destruction of some temples, but history records something often ignored. He also protected many temples, gave land grants to Hindu priests, punished officials who destroyed places of worship unlawfully. His actions were political, not purely religious. Rebellion invited destruction. Loyalty invited protection. This does not erase controversy. Chapter 19, A Kingdom Exhausted. By the early 1700s, the empire was vast but tired. Marathas adapted faster than Mughal armies. Rebellions sparked in Punjab, Rajputana, Bengal. Aurangzeb was aging, still working, still commanding, still refusing rest. But history was shifting. Empires do not fall suddenly, they crack slowly. Chapter 20, The Emperor Alone. By 1705, Aurangzeb was over 87 years old. He had conquered more land than any Mughal emperor. Yet there were no victory parades, no music, no festivals, no throne room applause. Instead, a tired old man in a war tent writing letters by candlelight. The empire was vast, but the emperor was alone. The letters of regret. Aurangzeb wrote letters to his sons, not orders, confessions. I came alone and I go as a stranger. I do not know who I am nor why I am here. I brought nothing with me and I leave with nothing. These were not the words of a tyrant, they were the words of a man who gave everything to duty and realized too late what duty had cost him. Chapter 21, A King Without a Palace. Aurangzeb refused royal luxury. He wore simple clothes, slept on the ground, ate little, lived under discipline. He earned money by copying the Quran, sewing prayer caps. He ordered that his burial be simple, no grand tomb be built, no state treasury money be used. This was not political theatre, it was belief. The grave with no roof. Aurangzeb chose his burial place himself. A simple grave in Khuldabad. No dome, no marble, no guards. Even today, rain falls directly on his grave. A king who ruled millions rests beneath the open sky. Chapter 22, Death of the Last Great Mughal. In 1707, Aurangzeb Alamgir died. No empire collapsed that day, but something ended. After him, sons fought each other, nobles grew corrupt, governors became independent. Within decades, the Mughal throne weakened colonial powers entered India. Aurangzeb was not perfect, but he was the last iron pillar holding the empire together. Chapter 23, Was Aurangzeb a hero or a warning? History's hardest question, 6-7 minutes. Aurangzeb is one of the most debated rulers in world history. To some, a symbol of discipline, a ruler of faith, a man of principle. To others, too rigid, too uncompromising, too focused on control. The truth, Aurangzeb ruled by law, not emotion, by duty, not popularity. And history teaches us, empires need balance, faith needs wisdom, power needs mercy. Aurangzeb had strength, but strength alone cannot stop time. Final cinematic monologue. He ruled the largest empire of his age, yet died with empty hands. He conquered kingdoms, but could not conquer history's judgment. Aurangzeb Alamgir, not a villain, not a saint, but a reminder that power is temporary and legacy is eternal. Thanks for watching.